It is Saturday, September 23rd, and this is your tropical update. We'll mostly focus on Ophelia, as it's expected to have widespread impacts to the East Coast throughout the weekend. We'll also talk about Tropical Depression 17, which has just formed and is expected to become the next tropical storm. Let's talk about Ophelia first. Here is what we are seeing right now on infrared satellite imagery. So it made landfall just shy of a Category 1 hurricane at 70 miles an hour right now. It has dropped in intensity to be expected as it interacts with land, 50 miles an hour moving north at 13 miles an hour. Now, as it crossed over to land, it definitely dropped in a little bit of its wind intensity. However, its rain field is exceptionally large, covering about a 500-mile spread. Moderate to heavy rainfall from North Carolina into New York City. So check out some of those very blinding rain spots, the areas in bright yellow. Those are causing concerns for inland flash flooding. There are warnings up for the afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern time for portions of, again, North Carolina, and this heavy rain pushing into Virginia as well. It's going to continue to have rain impacts all along the eastern seaboard throughout today and into tomorrow. Here's what the rain has looked like. Just over the last 24 hours, we've been seeing a couple of impact spots with bullseye areas of more than 5 inches of rain. 5.5 near the Emerald Isle area. This is where Ophelia made landfall around 6 o'clock Central Time Saturday morning, this morning. About 5 inches just north of New Bern, and those, again, bullseye red spots that you see here on radar indicated rainfall totals. More of that pushing into Virginia. The spots you see here in orange, those indicate rainfall rates of about 3 inches. The areas in yellow, about 2.5, and then the areas there in green, there's various shades of green, anywhere between 1 inch to 2 inches so far. More is expected throughout the day. So there are tropical storm warnings up from Norfolk into northern Carolina and extending beyond that. This entire area there in orange is expected to have tropical storm conditions this weekend. And that means not just the heavy rain that causes inland flooding, flash flooding, the concern for coastal erosion, the concern for storm surge, but also wind impacts. That's going to be something that we'll be watching not just for North Carolina and Virginia, but into the mid-Atlantic and New England as well. So this is the expected wind gust, 40 to 50 miles an hour for North Carolina and Virginia. That's for this morning into the afternoon. As we head into this evening, we'll start to see impacts on Philadelphia, 30 to 40 mile an hour wind gusts into the early morning hours. New York already seeing wind gusts this morning, but expected to continue to see that for tomorrow morning and into tomorrow evening. So it's going to be a breezy, rainy and dangerous weekend ahead for the eastern seaboard. We're going to monitor this dangerous situation, especially as it pertains to coastal impacts. So there are storm surge warnings up for the potential of life-threatening piling of these waves from just the force and the duration of Ophelia. So 2 to 4 feet storm surge expected for these areas highlighted in yellow, coastal Virginia to North Carolina, Wilmington, and then areas further north there, 1 to 3 foot storm surge expected in those areas that you see there in blue. So if you have any family members there, keep tabs on them. Make sure you maintain communication and keep up with these forecasts so you can see how Ophelia is progressing throughout the day. But just a lot of fuel that it has picked up traveling through the very warm waters, and the Atlantic is just that. It continues to be incredibly warm and firing up more storms. In fact, we just got the latest update from the National Hurricane Center, the advisory at 10 in the morning that now has Tropical Depression 17 on the radar, the watchful eye, to become the next named storm here in just a couple of hours. It just needs 39 mile an hour winds to get to that. Right now it is turning 35 mile an hour winds, and it is moving west at a healthy jog at 15 miles an hour, but it is not expected to have impacts to the continental U.S. I just want to show you what it's doing now. Here's a look at visible aerial imagery. This is a 6-hour loop, and you'll notice it had a lot of convection of bright white tops, some overshooting tops too, those little specks that you see kind of popping up and down. That just means healthy convection. The storm is building and collapsing, and that's what we look for, development. And then we start to see the formation, the structure of the system. Now we start to see this counterclockwise rotation, and it's starting to take shape there and starting to consolidate a little bit more, and that would indicate that it is getting those characteristics to become upgraded from a tropical depression to a tropical system. And like we mentioned, that's going to happen fairly quickly here because it has everything working in its favor as far as the fuel sources there. Right now it's traveling through water that's about 84, 85 degrees, and as it continues its track, it's going to tap into even hotter water, 85 to potentially those specks darker maroon there at around 87 degrees. But you'll notice the track, it's going to move west, and then models have it curving northward away from the continental U.S. And that is good because it, again, doesn't have anything working against it so far. Pretty weak wind shear, so wind shear is wind that's working in opposition to the storm system, so that wouldn't allow for it to build in the vertical. It would tilt it and disrupt its formation. Well, you'll notice the forecast, even through the middle of the week, shows very weak wind in the MDR, the main development region, and that's where we find Tropical Depression 17. So it is expected to continue to intensify 40 miles an hour, which would put it into the tropical storm named storm criteria as we head into Saturday evening. As we move forward through the end of the week and start of the week, it shows slow but steady progression, potentially could continue on to become a hurricane as we head into the end of the coming work week. But for now, we'll just keep tabs on it and continue to count the Atlantic hurricane season tally. We've got Ophelia. Philippe would be the next named storm, and that is what Tropical Depression 17 is looking very likely to become. We have got your tropical updates all weekend long, and any questions that you may have in between them, you can find me personally on social media. I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. These are my handles, Kim Castro. WX stands for weather, or you can find me at Kim Castro, KHOU. For now, have a safe weekend and stay vigilant when it comes to that tropical forecast.